This podcast is brought to you by Visor.ai and by the Arete Media Podcast Pantheon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very unique episode of the Arete podcast. This is actually going to be my first solo podcast. This one's a little weird, but for many reasons, I felt this was a very important topic to cover. So I'm just going to get right into it. You may or may not be aware of I don't know that you'd call it a trend, but something that's been happening particularly on YouTube, the concept of these AI generated podcasts. You've probably come across one. You may or may not have realized it. There is a tool, an online tool, that some people are using to create what is essentially, well, not essentially, it is an AI generated podcast of a male and female host talking about a wide variety of topics. They always refer to it as a deep dive unless you direct them to not do so, which I recently found out you can do like 10 minutes ago because I wanted to play with it. But long story short, I will tell you the tale. I will regale you of the tale of how I came to understand this tool and how I honestly believe you can use this ethically to create podcast content. And we'll get there. But long story short, my friend, Virus Vox, who you may know from Toon Talk 2.0, which I'm also on that podcast, sent me a random Instagram reel talking about the podcasting as we know it was dead, and he showed this tool, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The tool is a really cool thing that Google rolled out. I'm not sure when they did it. I think it's fairly recent, but it's called Notebook LM. I'll be honest, if I were a student right now, I would be using the crap out of this. Like, this is such a cool, robust tool, but I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. It's very easy to use and it's very cool. So it's literally just notebooklm.google.com. It is free to use, and I will show you the first one I did. So how it works, you create a new project. I've already uploaded a source. You can upload an article. You can upload a YouTube link. Like I said, there's a lot of options. You can upload it from your drive, a website or YouTube link, or you can actually just paste text. That's very important because I do that one later. But basically, the AI will take all that information and it will create, if you want it to create a podcast. They call it an audio overview, but it's basically a podcast. And what's really cool about this is this was all designed as a study tool. As you can see here, you can do the same thing and have it create a study guide using that exact same source. This is going to take a minute. So there you go. It will create sample questions based on your source with the answers. So you don't necessarily have to know what your answers need to be. You just need your study sources. Very cool. And then for people that are like me, that are more audio-visual learners, this creates a really digestible and fun format to learn the information you need to learn. So that's what it was designed for. However, with me being the probably too ethical skeptic, I flat out refused to use this tool under false pretenses, but I wanted to understand it. So naturally, I played with it. And me being the giant smartass that I am, the first thing I did was uploaded an article to Notebook LM about creating a podcast with Notebook LM. So here is the AI generated result of that source.
Ever wish you could just download knowledge right into your brain?
Uh-huh.
Imagine if you could turn a whole stack of research papers into a podcast just instantly.
That would be amazing.
Well, that's kind of what we're looking at today with Google's Notebook LM.
Mm-hmm.
It launched back in October of 2024.
Yeah, October 5th.
Yeah, and it's still in this experimental phase.
Right.
Which I think makes it even more exciting for our deep dive today.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So we're going to figure out how it works,
Okay.
and then really explore what this could mean, not just for podcasts,
Right.
but for learning, and I think maybe even bigger, like how we think about information itself.
Yeah, I think what's really intriguing here is how Notebook LM goes beyond like simple text to speech.
Right.
We're talking about a pretty sophisticated language model.
Yeah.
It's not just reading words aloud. It's actually like grasping the concepts in the information that you feed it.
Okay, so walk me through this. How does someone actually create a podcast using Notebook LM?
Well, it's surprisingly straightforward. Imagine like opening a digital notebook and you just drop in your sources, and these could be anything like articles, research papers, even YouTube videos.
Wow.
And then Notebook LM will analyze all those sources,
Okay.
but it's not just looking for keywords.
Right.
It's actually looking for the relationships between the concepts.
Oh, interesting.
So it identifies like the key themes, the
Yeah.
important takeaways, and then it structures them into a coherent narrative.
Wow.
Almost like an outline for
So it's figuring out what matters most
exact.
and putting it into an actual like story.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, and then from that outline, it generates the audio.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of like having an invisible podcast producer,
Yeah.
like sifting through the information, finding all the golden nuggets, and then weaving them together into a podcast episode.
Okay, I'm officially impressed.
Uh-huh.
So anyone can just do this. Is it free? What's the catch?
Well, right now it's still in this early testing phase.
But the interface is designed to be incredibly user-friendly.
Yeah.
You don't need to be like a tech whiz or a podcasting pro to use it.
So like hypothetically, if I had, say, a mountain of background reading to do for a project, I could dump it all into Notebook LM
Right.
and
Yep.
get a podcast summary.
That's precisely the idea.
That's awesome.
Yeah, think about researchers who need to digest dozens of papers,
Oh, yeah.
students grappling with dense textbooks, even businesses wanting to get key insights from, reports or meeting notes.
Right.
Notebook LM could radically change how we approach all those tasks.
All right, now you've really got me thinking about the possibilities.
Uh-huh.
But before we get too carried away, let's ground this with a real-world example.
Sure.
You mentioned a company, Marco.
Yep.
Tell me more about how they use Notebook LM.
So Marco is a great case study.
Yeah.
They're a tech company, and they had a very specific problem. Their documentation website, which is essentially like an instruction manual for their software,
Right.
was extensive, super useful, but also very, very long.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Documentation can sometimes feel like an epic novel
Uh-huh.
that you never wanted to read.
Exactly. And for Marco, this was a barrier.
Yeah.
Potential users might be intimidated by the sheer volume of information.
Makes sense.
So they took their entire documentation website and fed it into Notebook LM.
Wow.
And the result was a comprehensive podcast version of their documentation.
Hold on, they turned their whole website into a podcast.
They did. It was incredibly ambitious.
That's amazing.
It was, and it worked.
Wow.
Now, instead of clicking through endless pages, potential users can listen to a clear, concise audio guide.
All right.
They can learn about the software while walking the dog commuting or even doing dishes.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's like they unlocked a whole new level of accessibility.
Right?
But it's not just about convenience, is it?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, this points to something much bigger about how we learn and share knowledge, right?
Absolutely. What's fascinating is that Marco's example demonstrates a shift from passive reading to active listening.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Imagine a world where complex information is readily available in an audio format.
Wait, are we talking about like the audiobook revolution, but for everything?
That's a great analogy.
Wow.
And think about the implications for personalized learning.
Okay.
Each podcast generated by Notebook LM is unique because it's based on the specific sources that you provide.
Right.
So instead of like a one-size-fits-all textbook, you could have a custom audio learning experience tailored to your exact needs.
Whoa, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah,
It's like having a personal tutor who like pre-digests information for you.
exactly.
Okay, I am officially down the rabbit hole on this one.
Haha. Yeah, it really does open up like a ton of new possibilities.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder like, what could this mean for fields like education or even just like staying informed about really complex topics?
Right, like imagine a world where instead of wading through, dense policy papers, you could just listen to a podcast that breaks it all down.
Right.
Or like a student prepping for an exam
Right.
could have like a personalized audio guide
Exactly.
based on their class notes and readings.
It's like having this incredible tool for knowledge compression.
Yeah.
You take this massive amount of information, and Notebook LM helps you distill it down to its essence.
That's so cool.
But it's not just about summarizing. It's also about connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Finding those simple links between ideas that you might miss in a traditional text format.
See, that's what I find so fascinating about this.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about making information easier to consume.
Right.
We're talking about potentially changing how we understand it, how we make connections, how we learn.
Precisely. And think about how we traditionally engage with complex information.
Okay.
It's often a very linear process.
Yeah.
You read a book from beginning to end, or you scroll through a website. But what if, with the help of AI, we could explore information in a more multidimensional way?
Okay, give me an example. I'm having trouble picturing this.
Okay, so imagine listening to a podcast on, let's say, climate change.
Okay.
And as you're listening, you hear a point that sparks a new question in your mind. With Notebook LM, you could potentially pause the podcast, add your question or a related article into the notebook.
Oh, wow.
And the AI could weave that new information into the existing narrative.
That's crazy.
Creating a branching pathway of knowledge exploration.
Whoa, that's next level.
Yeah.
So it becomes this interactive, personalized learning journey.
Exactly. It's like having a conversation with the information itself, guided by the intelligence of the AI.
This is seriously blowing my mind. It's almost like we're moving towards this future where knowledge becomes something fluid, adaptable, something we can mold and shape to fit our needs.
That's a beautiful way to put it, and I think it's important to remember that this technology is still in its early stages. We're just beginning to scratch the surface of what's possible.
That's what's so exciting.
Yeah.
It feels like we're standing on the cusp of a whole new era of information access and knowledge creation. And I have to ask this.
Sure.
What about the human element?
Right.
Where do we fit in if AI can do all of this?
That's a crucial question, and I think it's important to emphasize that Notebook LM and tools like it are not meant to replace human intelligence or creativity.
Okay.
They're meant to enhance it.
So it's more like a collaboration,
Yeah.
AI as a partner in the learning process.
Like I said, think of it as a powerful assistant, a research companion that can handle the heavy lifting of information gathering, synthesis, and even basic content creation.
Okay.
And this frees up human minds to focus on higher level tasks like critical thinking, creative problem solving, making those unique connections that only humans can make.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, instead of spending hours sifting through data, we can focus on the why behind the what. We can dig deeper into the meaning, the implications, the possibility.
Right. It's about leveraging the strengths of both human and artificial intelligence to create something truly transformative.
I love that.
And I think it has the potential to democratize knowledge creation in a way we've never seen before.
I'm really struck by that idea of democratization.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that a bit more?
Sure.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, traditionally creating high-quality content, whether it's a podcast, a research paper, or even just a well-informed presentation, requires a significant investment of time and resources.
Right.
You need access to information, you need the skills to analyze and synthesize that information, and you need the technical know-how to create the final product.
And you're saying Notebook LM could change all that?
Potentially, yes, by simplifying and automating certain aspects of content creation. Notebook LM could empower individuals and communities who previously lacked the resources or expertise to share their knowledge and perspectives with the world.
So someone with a great idea but limited technical skills could use this to create a podcast and reach a global audience.
Exactly. Imagine a teacher in a rural community creating audio lessons based on the latest research, or a community activist sharing their insights on local issues through a podcast.
Wow. It's like we're talking about leveling the playing field.
Yeah.
Giving everyone a voice regardless of their background or resources. That's incredibly powerful.
It is, and I think it's important to acknowledge that with any new technology, there will be challenges and potential downsides.
Right.
We need to be mindful of how this technology is developed and deployed, and we need to have open conversations about its ethical implications.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
But I also want to hold on to that sense of possibility, that sense of excitement about what this technology could unlock.
Yeah.
It feels like we're at the beginning of something truly transformative.
I agree. It's a moment of both tremendous opportunity and responsibility.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to bring it back to our listener.
Okay.
You, dear listener, are now armed with this knowledge about Notebook LM. What sparks your curiosity?
Yeah.
What possibilities are swirling in your mind? I can't help but think, like, even beyond podcasting, right? Like all the different ways this could be used.
Right.
Like imagine using Notebook LM to create audio summaries of like complex legal documents.
Oh, yeah.
Make them more accessible.
Way more.
To just the average person.
Absolutely.
Or using it to generate personalized audio tours of like museums or historical sites.
Oh, yeah.
That are tailored to your interests.
Those are great examples.
Right.
And think about the possibilities for like research and education.
Oh, yeah.
Students could use this to create audio study guides from their textbooks and class notes.
That would be amazing.
Making studying way more engaging and efficient.
Yeah, it's like having a personal research assistant like at your fingertips.
Right.
Ready to distill and organize information in a way that's comprehensive, but also like easy to understand.
And it's not just about making information more accessible.
Right.
It's also about fostering deeper understanding.
Okay.
By presenting information in this narrative format.
Yeah.
Notebook LM helps us connect the dots, see the bigger picture, and make meaningful connections between ideas.
I'm also kind of intrigued by like the potential impact on storytelling.
Oh, yeah?
Imagine a filmmaker using Notebook LM to research and structure a documentary.
Oh, that's cool.
Or a novelist using it to explore different narrative paths for their book.
Absolutely.
Right.
This technology could become like a really powerful tool for creative exploration, helping artists and storytellers find new ways to connect with their audiences.
It's almost like we're expanding the very definition of literacy.
Yeah.
In the past, literacy meant being able to read and write.
Right.
Now it's kind of evolving to include the ability to like navigate and comprehend information in a variety of formats, including audio.
That's a really profound observation.
It makes me wonder, what skills will be most valuable in a world where AI can just like generate audio content from any source?
I think critical thinking is going to be more important than ever.
Okay.
We need to be able to evaluate information from multiple sources, identify bias, discern fact from fiction.
Yeah.
Creativity and innovation will also be crucial.
Of course.
As we explore these new ways to use this technology to tell stories, share knowledge, and connect with each other.
So it's not just about learning how to use these tools, it's about learning how to think critically and creatively in an AI-powered world.
Exactly, and that's a journey we'll all need to embark on together.
Yeah, as individuals, as communities, and as a society.
Totally.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into this world of AI-powered podcasts and Notebook LM. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From like the technical details to the broader implications for learning creativity and the future of information itself.
It's been a fascinating conversation. I'm always amazed by like the speed of innovation in this field and the incredible potential these technologies hold to, reshape our world.
I'm walking away with a sense of both wonder and responsibility.
Yeah, I feel that.
Wonder at the possibilities that lie ahead.
Right.
But responsibility to make sure that these technologies are used for good, to empower, to uplift, to create a more informed and equitable world.
I couldn't agree more.
Right. It's up to all of us to shape the future of AI in a way that benefits humanity as a whole.
That's right.
And that brings us back to you, dear listener. We've explored the power of Notebook LM, its potential applications, and like the broader implications for how we learn, create, and share knowledge.
Yeah.
Now we're curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
What resonated with you the most? What questions are still lingering in your mind?
Yeah.
And then most importantly, what possibilities are you excited to explore?
Right.
The future of knowledge is in our hands. And it's just waiting to be written in or maybe spoken into existence.
Speaking of having fun with AI, I want to tell you about one of the sponsors of today's podcast, my friends at Visor.ai. Listen, if you create content, whether you do it for fun or you do it professionally, you know as well as anybody else that short form content is the biggest key to growth. In fact, all podcasts in the Arete Podcast Pantheon, including those that we produce in-house through Pantheon Podcasts, are using short form content as their biggest organic growth tool. But the thing about producing shorts is it's really time consuming, especially if you want to do a good job. That's when I discovered Visor.ai. And let me tell you, there's a lot of tools out there that are similar to this. I've not seen one that is nearly as good. So using Visitor.ai is extremely simple. You simply upload your video or provide the YouTube link to the video you want to create content with. Select a few parameters. Personally, I go with up to 60 seconds because that's what the limit for YouTube Shorts is. And then it auto generates using its AI engine to create viral ready clips. And not only does it create the clips for you, but it gives you a viral score in the corner that tells you how likely this clip is to go viral based on current, search data. Also, why it might go viral. And as if that weren't enough, you can auto generate or eliminate edit captions. You can edit the clip, auto reframe it. So if you want two people on screen versus one, you can do that quite easily. And then the other thing it will do, if you want to use AI to the fullest, it will even generate a title and video description for you to use if you want to. So you can use as much or as little AI as you want to create your content. As if this tool weren't cool enough on its own, our friends at Visitor.ai, because you're a viewer of the Arete podcast, are giving you a special promotion if you use our link to sign up. Use promo code Arete at your time of purchase, and you save 5% off of your first 12 months of payment. So basically, you get 5% off for your first year, and trust me, you're going to use it. So click the link in the description, use promo code Arete to sign up for Visitor.ai and enjoy your 5% off your first year. So naturally, I wanted to keep playing with it. And then I thought to myself, I wonder what it could generate. Because again, keeping in mind that this is technically a study tool, I wondered what it would generate if I uploaded the entire text of a book. So that's what I did. I uploaded the entirety of the text of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Now, I used Christmas Carol because, as far as I'm aware, I believe I'm right on all this, all the works of Charles Dickens are in the public domain, so I will not have violated any sort of copyright law in any way, shape, or form. And honestly, what it generated was kind of scarily good. So here it is. This is the AI generated podcast doing a deep dive on A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens.
Welcome to another deep dive with us.
It's great to be here.
We're going to unpack some classic literature together.
Sounds fun.
We've got excerpts from a story.
Oh, yeah.
I think you'll find it incredibly thought-provoking.
I'm intrigued already.
Especially as we head into the holiday season. Now, I'm not going to reveal the title just yet, but let's just say it features a character who goes through a pretty dramatic transformation. Yeah.
That's a theme that always seems to resonate, doesn't it?
Right.
It kind of speaks to our own hopes.
Right.
And perhaps fears about our own capacity for change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the character we're going to meet today is Ebenezer Scrooge.
Okay.
And let me tell you, he is not exactly the warm and fuzzy type.
No. Okay.
In fact, the author describes him as a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone.
Wow.
Hard and sharp as flint.
Ooh.
Does that sound like anyone you know?
Well, it's fascinating how these miserly characters, even those written centuries ago, can still feel so relevant.
Yeah.
We may not all be as extreme as Scrooge.
Right.
But who hasn't struggled with greed or selfishness at some point?
That's true.
I think that's part of why this story has endured for so long.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
There's something about Scrooge that feels both larger than life and incredibly human at the same time.
Yeah.
But here's the real mystery.
Okay.
This guy, who practically embodies the phrase, bah humbug, somehow transforms into a beacon of kindness and generosity. How does that happen?
Yeah, how does that happen?
That's what we're going to explore today.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, so buckle up, because Scrooge's journey to redemption...
Redemption, yeah.
...starts with a ghostly encounter.
A ghostly encounter?
Yes.
Okay.
His deceased business partner, Jacob Marley, appears to him, and it's not exactly a friendly catch-up.
Oh, no.
Marley is dragging these massive chains forged from all the bad deeds he committed during his life.
That's rough.
Ledgers, cash boxes.
Wow.
The whole works.
Those are some heavy chains.
It's pretty intense imagery. What do you make of it?
The chains are such a powerful symbol. They represent the burden of a life spent chasing wealth and neglecting human connection.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder.
It makes you think.
What chains we might be forging for ourselves.
That's a good point.
Through our choices.
It's a chilling thought.
It is.
For sure.
Yeah.
And Marley doesn't mince words.
He doesn't.
He warns Scrooge that he's going to be visited by 3 spirits.
3 spirits.
Who will offer him a chance at redemption.
Okay.
Otherwise, he's destined to end up just like Marley.
Oh.
Burdened by the weight of his own greed.
Yeah.
Do you buy into that idea that our actions have lasting consequences even after we're gone?
It's an intriguing question, isn't it?
It is.
Whether or not we believe in literal ghosts, the idea that our choices echo throughout our lives and even beyond is something worth pondering.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first spirit to arrive is the ghost of Christmas past.
Okay.
And this is where things start to get really interesting.
All right.
He takes Scrooge back to his childhood and younger years,
Uh-huh.
showing him key moments that shaped who he became.
I see.
We see him as a lonely schoolboy,
Uh-huh.
then as a young apprentice,
Yeah.
working for this jovial, generous guy named Fezziwig.
What's fascinating here is the contrast between Fezziwig and Scrooge.
Right.
Fezziwig represents everything Scrooge has abandoned.
Yeah.
Joy, generosity, a love of people.
He's like the opposite.
It seems the ghost is prompting Scrooge to compare these 2 paths,
That's a good point.
to recognize what he's lost by choosing a different route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
Uh-huh.
And then there's this heartbreaking scene with his former fiancée, Belle.
Oh.
She breaks off their engagement because
Oh.
Scrooge has become too obsessed with money. It's a poignant reminder of the things we can sacrifice when we prioritize material wealth above all else.
Wow.
It makes you wonder,
Very sad.
can those losses ever truly be recovered?
That's a question many of us grapple with, I think.
Yeah.
Is it ever too late to reclaim the things that truly matter? Love, connection, purpose.
Right.
The story doesn't give us easy answers,
No, it doesn't.
but it certainly prompts us to examine our own priorities.
It does.
Yeah.
So Scrooge has just witnessed some pretty intense scenes from his past.
Yeah.
Moments of loneliness, lost love, a growing obsession with wealth.
Makes you think.
Where do you think the ghost of Christmas present is going to take him next?
Well, if the first spirit was about introspection
Yeah.
and facing the consequences of past choices,
Right.
I suspect this one might be more about outward perspective.
Okay.
Perhaps we'll see how Scrooge's current actions are impacting those around him.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right.
Okay.
The ghost of Christmas present, who, by the way, is described as this jolly, larger-than-life figure,
I like him already.
takes Scrooge to observe Christmas as it's unfolding for others.
Makes sense.
And it's a stark contrast to the isolated world Scrooge has built for himself.
Yeah, I bet.
They visit this bustling Christmas market
Okay.
filled with people buying food and gifts,
Uh-huh.
and then they go to Bob Cratchit's house.
Bob Cratchit.
You know, Scrooge's poor, overworked clerk?
Right.
The Cratchit family is such a powerful counterpoint to Scrooge's wealth and isolation.
Oh, absolutely.
They have so little, materially speaking,
Yeah.
but their Christmas dinner, even though it's meager,
Right.
is filled with such warmth and joy.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most meaningful things in life have nothing to do with money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's this poignant scene where Tiny Tim, Bob Cratchit's youngest son,
Tiny Tim.
makes a toast and he says, "God bless us, everyone."
Oh.
What do you think Dickens is trying to convey through this character?
Well, Tiny Tim, despite his physical challenges,
Right.
embodies a kind of pure, unadulterated goodness.
Yeah,
He's a symbol of innocence,
I see that.
but also of hope and resilience in the face of hardship.
It's a good point.
He reminds us of the importance of compassion and empathy,
Right.
especially towards those who are less fortunate than ourselves.
That's beautifully put.
Thank you.
And it makes Scrooge's reaction all the more striking.
Oh, really?
When he asks the spirit if Tiny Tim will live,
Okay.
the ghost echoes Scrooge's own heartless words from earlier,
He does.
saying that if these are the conditions,
Yeah.
he had better do it and decrease the surplus population.
Ouch.
Right.
Yeah, that moment is like a punch in the gut for Scrooge.
Yeah.
He's confronted with the callous indifference of his own words
Right.
and how they reflect a dehumanizing view of poverty.
You're right.
It's a turning point.
Yeah.
He's starting to see the real-world consequences of his detached worldview.
That's a good point. And the ghost of Christmas present isn't finished with him yet.
Oh, no.
They visit Scrooge's nephew's Christmas party,
Okay.
which is full of laughter, music, and games.
That's fun.
And even though Scrooge is invisible to the partygoers,
Okay.
he finds himself drawn into the warmth and merriment. It's like he's starting to remember what it feels like to enjoy the company of others.
It's as if the spirit is showing him all the things he's missing out on by shutting himself off from the world.
Yeah.
The simple joys of human connection, the laughter, the shared experiences, these are all things money can't buy.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And it seems to be having an effect on him.
Really?
He's participating in the party games, laughing along with the jokes.
That's great.
Even though no one can see or hear him.
Wow.
It's a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, this cold-hearted miser isn't beyond redemption after all.
We're seeing cracks in his icy facade.
Yeah.
The seeds of change are being planted.
Okay, so we've seen Scrooge confront his past.
Get a glimpse of the joy and connection he's missing out on in the present.
Right.
But something tells me the ghost of Christmas yet to come might have something a little more unsettling in store for him.
Oh, no.
What are your thoughts?
Well, the past and present are one thing.
Yeah.
But the future holds endless possibilities.
That's true.
If this spirit follows the pattern, I suspect it might show Scrooge the potential consequences of his actions if he continues on his current path.
Ooh, that's a chilling thought.
It is.
We'll find out together when we return for the final part of our deep dive into this classic tale. All right, so we left off with Scrooge, about to face the most mysterious of the three spirits, the ghost of Christmas yet to come. This one, shrouded in darkness, doesn't speak.
Oh, wow.
And seems to radiate an aura of, well, impending doom.
That's scary.
What do you think Dickens is going for with this particular ghost?
I think the silence is key here. It creates a sense of unease, of the unknown.
Yeah.
It forces us, and Scrooge,
to confront the idea that the future isn't fixed.
Oh.
That it's shaped by the choices we make in the present.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
And the scenes this ghost shows Scrooge are definitely unsettling.
Oh, no.
They visit that bustling marketplace again.
Okay.
But this time people are whispering about some rich guy who just died. But here's the chilling part.
What's that?
No one seems to care about the guy himself.
Really?
Only about his money and possessions.
Wow. It's a powerful commentary.
Yeah.
On the fleeting nature of material wealth.
For sure.
In the grand scheme of things, does it really matter how much money we accumulate?
I don't think so.
What truly endures is the impact we have on others.
Right.
The relationships we build, the love we give and receive.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it?
It is.
And it gets worse.
Oh, no.
The ghost takes Scrooge to this seedy pawn shop.
Pawn shop.
Where these people are pawning off stuff they stole from the dead man's house. They're joking about how the guy deserved it because he was so stingy and heartless.
That's rough.
This scene shows the dark underbelly of society, the desperation that can drive people to exploit others.
Right.
But it also makes you wonder...
What's that?
Are we all complicit in creating these conditions through our own indifference or inaction?
That's a heavy question.
Yeah.
But an important one.
And then the ghost takes Scrooge to Bob Cratchit's house.
Okay.
But this time there's a somber silence.
Oh.
The family is grieving the loss of Tiny Tim.
Oh, that's so sad.
It's heartbreaking.
This is where the true cost of Scrooge's choices becomes devastatingly clear.
Right.
Tiny Tim.
Yeah.
This symbol of innocence and hope is gone.
It's so sad.
And it's implied that his death could have been prevented.
Right.
If perhaps someone with Scrooge's resources had intervened.
And it's at this moment that Scrooge finally realizes...
What's that?
He's the rich guy everyone's been talking about. He's the one who died alone and unloved.
That's tough.
He's the one who let Tiny Tim die.
Oh, no.
Because he was too consumed by his own greed to see the needs of others.
It's a moment of profound reckoning.
Yeah.
He's forced to confront the bleak reality of the legacy he's creating and the emptiness of a life devoid of genuine connection and compassion.
You can practically feel his desperation when he begs the ghost. Are these the shadows of things that will be, or are they shadows of things that may be only?
He's scared?
He's clinging to the hope that it's not too late to change his fate.
It's a powerful question, isn't it?
It is.
It speaks to the very nature of free will.
Right.
Do we have the power to change our destiny through our choices? Or are we bound by some predetermined course?
And then just like that, Scrooge wakes up in his own bed.
Okay.
It's Christmas morning.
It is.
And he's overjoyed to be alive.
Oh, that's great.
He's laughing, he's crying, he's running around like a man possessed. He immediately sets out to make amends.
Good for him.
Sending a giant turkey to the Cratchit family.
Nice.
Donating generously to charity.
That's all.
And even attending his nephew's Christmas party.
It's a complete and utter transformation.
Right.
He embraces generosity, kindness, and connection with an almost childlike enthusiasm.
It's pretty incredible.
He becomes a benefactor to the Cratchit family.
I love that.
Ensuring Tiny Tim gets the medical care he needs.
Ah.
And he reconnects with his nephew.
Yeah.
Rebuilding the bridges he had burned.
And in the end, Scrooge becomes a beloved member of his community,
Good for him.
known for his kindness and generosity.
That's wonderful.
He truly embodies the spirit of Christmas.
Yeah.
Not just on that one day, but all year round.
Right.
What a journey.
It's a testament to the human potential for change.
Yeah.
The power of redemption and the enduring message of hope
Right.
that lies at the heart of this timeless tale.
So there you have it.
We did it.
We started this deep dive with a grumpy old miser who despised Christmas.
That's right.
And we ended with a man transformed by compassion and generosity.
I love it.
And the story, in case you haven't guessed it yet,
Come on, you know it.
is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens.
The classic.
It's a story that continues to resonate with readers and audiences
Yeah,
centuries later because it speaks to something universal within us.
absolutely.
The longing for connection, the desire for meaning and purpose,
Yeah,
and the hope that no matter how far down a path we've strayed,
right.
it's never too late to change our course.
It's never too late.
And that, my friend, is the end of our deep dive into A Christmas Carol.
That was fun.
We hope you enjoyed this journey through Scrooge's transformation
Yeah, me too.
and that it's left you with something to think about
Yeah.
as we head into this holiday season.
Remember the spirit of Christmas.
Mm.
The spirit of generosity and kindness
Yeah.
can live within us all year round. It's up to each of us to choose how we'll shape our own stories.
That's a great way to end it.
I thought so.
I know, right? It's super cool. I'm not gonna lie. I have so much fun playing with this. And then that sparked an idea, which actually leads me into the second sponsor for today's podcast, that being the Arete Media Podcast Pantheon. With this announcement, we will have 16 active podcasts, and I know there are more in the future, so by the time you watch this, there will probably be more. The whole point of Arete Media is to help people have their voices heard. Our mission is to help people who want to start a podcast, whether they need a lot of help, need a little help, or just want to be part of the group for cross promotion. That's kind of our deal. So if you've got an idea for a podcast, reach out to us using the second link in the description. It's a contact form. It sends me an email. Tell me your ideas, and we can collaborate and figure out a way to help make it happen for you. Which brings me to my announcement of a new podcast that we are starting on the network. And here's the ethical concerns. I'm a big ethical guy, probably to my detriment. This tool, in my opinion, a lot of people are using this tool frankly, for laziness, because they're generating podcasts using this tool and passing it off as their own work. Here's the thing. In true Jake and Arete Media fashion, we're not going to do that. We're going to tell you up front what we're doing. But it gets even better than that because we're going to be upfront and honest, and also turn it into a colossal joke. So I am pleased to announce the creation of our latest podcast, Arete AI Analysis, with our hosts, AI generated, of course, our hosts Atom and Ilea. If you're a Star Trek fan, you'll get that joke, and Atom is self-explanatory. That's a Genesis and science joke. I know it's not as funny as if I have to explain it, but some people won't get it, so sorry. And if you haven't seen Star Trek, just Star Trek the Motion Picture, watch it. It's worth seeing once, at least. Anyway, so what we're going to do with this podcast is we're going to upload a podcast episode that we have done in the past, so it's our content, and the hosts, the AI hosts, Atom and Ilea, are going to do a podcast talking about the podcast that we did to hopefully drum up interest in people watching the original podcast. I just want to use the tool. That's what it really comes down to. I'm just having fun with this. And the first podcast I tried it out with is actually going to be our debut episode, which was the Average Intelligence podcast episode, where we did a deep dive. The irony is not lost on me. We did this episode years before this tool was available. In fact, the title of the episode is Titanic, a deep dive, or something to that effect. Anyway, so uploaded that. And I got to say, I was very impressed with that. So you're going to be able to watch this whole episode now after you finish this one, because these are going to go up at the same time. I'm going to schedule them that way. But here's a little snippet from that AI analysis podcast.
Exactly. You're going to see Titanic in a whole new light after this.
Yeah.
So the video essayist starts off talking about color symbolism. They're saying that the colors worn by Jack and Rose and Cal throughout the film aren't just accidental.
Right.
They were deliberate choices packed with meaning.
Yeah.
So what's interesting to me is how these color choices often reflect the characters, like emotional states or their relationships. Like take Rose, for example. When we first meet her, she's draped in white and purple.
White often represents innocence and purity. And purple, can be associated with royalty.
Yeah, it's like she's pristine, right? This like untouched flower. But at the same time, she's trapped within those like rigid expectations of her class. Like she's going to be married off to some rich guy.
Right.
I mean, her mom's always like pushing her towards Cal and away from Jack.
Right. And speaking of her mother, remember how she's always wearing green? The video essayist suggests that green symbolizes wealth and ambition, but also potentially greed and even jealousy.
It's like she's living vicariously through Rose, right? Like pushing her toward a life that's just going to bring her, the mother, more social clout. I think the green's a really interesting choice, especially when you contrast it with Rose's initial innocence.
Exactly. It really highlights that conflict between Rose's genuine desires and like the materialistic ambitions of her family and her whole social circle. This theme of conflicting values is kind of woven throughout the film.
Now, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about that corset scene. I think that's a pretty powerful visual, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. That scene's so much more than just fashion, like the video essayist was arguing. It's like a literal and metaphorical representation of all the restrictions placed on Rose by her class and society.
Right. It's like she's being squeezed into this mold that doesn't really fit her true self. And that's a feeling that I think a lot of people, probably our listeners, can relate to in their own lives. Interestingly, though, as the film goes on and Rose falls deeper in love with Jack, her wardrobe starts to change. Her clothes become less restrictive and looser, more flowing.
Yeah, like she's shedding those constraints.
Yeah.
Kind of like a newfound sense of freedom and self-expression.
Right.
Do you think there's a connection between that visual transformation and like Rose's evolving relationship with Jack?
Oh, I think it's undeniable. The loosening of her clothes really mirrors her growing comfort with her desires and, her willingness to kind of break free from what's expected of her. It's a powerful visual metaphor for her internal transformation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Now, we can't forget about Jack.
Really?
The video essayist dives into his character as well and suggests that he kind of embodies this masculine imperative.
Right. So for those of you who maybe haven't heard that term before, the masculine imperative is that societal expectation that men should be protectors and providers. And Jack definitely fits that mold. He's constantly putting Rose's safety and well-being above his own.
You see it time and time again. He rescues her from different dangers physically and emotionally. He guides her, supports her, fights for her survival. But is there a downside to this unwavering heroism?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. The video essayist made the argument that Jack, despite his good intentions, might actually be reinforcing those traditional gender roles by consistently assuming the role of the rescuer.
Yeah, because it kind of perpetuates the idea that women are inherently in need of saving. And Rose initially kind of embodies this feminine imperative, right? Where women are expected to prioritize preservation and safety. But eventually she breaks free from that.
It's like she's caught between these two opposing forces.
Yeah.
She's expected to be protected, but at the same time, she has this burning desire for freedom and agency.
Right.
And this struggle really comes to a head in that scene where she jumps back onto the sinking ship to be with Jack.
Right. It's both a testament to her love for him and like a defiant act. She chooses to face danger with him rather than seeking safety on her own. But it does raise the question, did her choice to be with him actually seal his fate? If she had stayed in the lifeboat, would he have had a better chance?
It's a question that really makes you think about sacrifice, and the weight of our choices and those unintended consequences of defying expectations.
Absolutely.
It's clear that Rose's transformation is like a central theme of the film.
Right.
But do the other characters experience similar growth?
Well, the video essayist goes on to analyze all three members of that love triangle, Rose, Jack, and Cal. And they assign each of them a distinct character arc. So Rose, as we've discussed, has what's called a positive arc, meaning she undergoes significant growth and change. But Jack, he kind of stays the same throughout the whole film, right?
Right. He's always the hero. Selfless.
Yeah, the video essayist calls this a flat arc. While he doesn't necessarily change internally, his unwavering character really has a profound impact on those around him, especially Rose. He acts as this catalyst for her transformation, inspiring her to embrace her true self.
Now, if you want to check out that full episode of the Arete AI Analysis podcast, you can by clicking the third link in the description below. That episode is now live. Like I said, they're released at the same time. So if this one's live, that one is live. So you can check that out now that you've watched the end of this show. And I want to take a moment to thank you for watching this podcast. And if you haven't already, please like, share, and or subscribe. All of those help the podcast grow. And check out some of the other podcasts, which you'll be able to do a lot easier now thanks to the newest podcast, Arete AI Analysis. And honestly, if you're a student in any capacity right now, I highly recommend you check out Google Notebook LM because it's a really, really great tool. I really wish I had this when I was a student. This thing is phenomenal because I'm a very visual and audio learner, so this would have been tremendous for me. Don't use it to cheat. Use it to enhance your learning experience. And I kind of wish I could play around with the study guides. I think that's really cool and a very handy tool for students. Like all things, though, the tool itself is not bad. It's what you choose to do with it. This tool can be used for many, many great and entertaining things, and it can also be used to help lazy people try to create content and pass it off as their own. And we're not about that. In fact, in other areas of our business, we have figured out a way to use this tool to create content to enhance our business without passing it off as anything other than AI generated content. So use it ethically, use it wisely, had fun with it, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of the Arete podcast.